Hi, my name's Dave Snodgrass, and today on Table Ready Gaming, I'm excited to show you a simple paint scheme that'll take your Wizkids Water Elementals to the next level. The gnomes over at Wizkids have been knocking these deep cut miniatures out of the park. The Dungeons & Dragons Water Elemental is profoundly well done. This miniature looks amazing right out of the box. The translucent plastic is an outstanding medium, and I wanted to show you a paint scheme that would build on this medium, not simply cover it up. However, you're going to want to take a moment and scrape off the mold lines that run along the top of the water elementals.
Pseudopod.
I'm just going to call them arms from now on. If you're new to miniature painting, you might be discouraged by these mold lines and think it's a sign of shoddy craftsmanship. But honestly, any miniature that comes from a two-part mold is going to have mold lines. These mold lines are caused by the fill medium, in this case, the plastic, leaking out of the gap or seam between the two parts of the casting mold. The real craftsmanship comes from designing where these mold lines will appear on the final product. Good mold makers will put them along the back or underside of the miniature. Bad mold makers put them across the mini's face. Why would you put a mold line right down the center of my little plastic dude's moneymaker? Luckily, removing mold lines is very simple, especially with these plastic Dungeons & Dragons miniatures. And you can do it by simply running your X-Acto knife over the mold line to scrape it off. You don't even have to apply that much pressure. Now you could completely skip this step, but the paint scheme I'm about to show you will really make the mold line stick out if you decide to leave it. Right, so on to the next step. Glue the miniature to the base. These Wizkids D&D miniatures come with a flat plastic base, but personally, I don't use them. Not that there's anything wrong with the included base, except it doesn't match the bases my other miniatures are on, and my OCD fires off when I see miniatures on different bases at the gaming table. To glue on the miniature, I use Gorilla Glue's Gel Super Glue, as it dries clear and doesn't fog up the translucent plastic. Once the glue is dried, you're going to apply a layer of Stormcloud Wash from Secret Weapon Miniatures. This paint is being painted on straight from the bottle. I'm not diluting it, I'm not watering it down. You'll see that this paint will pull in the recesses of the model and start to add shadows to the miniature. When you're applying this paint, you want to be extra careful on how you're letting this paint pool, and make sure you're not leaving ugly spots on your D&D mini. I want to draw your attention to the arms of the water elemental, so you can see that I have left the very ends, or hands, of the water elemental clear. This is a stylistic choice, and I think it creates a nice transition from clear water to dark blue once the miniature is complete. Now you're going to want to wait for this paint to completely dry before moving on to the next step. I would suggest leaving it dry for at least an hour, and check it carefully before continuing, because mixing the wet paints will ruin the effect and turn your water elemental into a mud monster, and that's not really what we're going for here. After the Stormwind is dry, we're going to apply our next paint from Secret Weapon Miniatures, their Sapphire Wash paint. When I started applying the Secret Weapons Sapphire Wash to the water elemental, I started further down the water elemental's arm, leaving a bit of the Stormwind uncovered. Again, this is a stylistic choice, and I chose to do so because I believe it helps create a watery transition effect for the arm, and it's something fun you couldn't do with a non-transparent miniature. So make sure you get even coverage with your Secret Weapon Miniature Sapphire Wash, and look to avoid ugly pooling. If you do get too much paint on the model, you can pull the paint off with a dry brush, a bit of tissue, or even a paper towel. On my water elemental, I decided to put the Sapphire Wash on extra heavy on the water elemental's face and under his armpits. See, pseudo pits just sounds weird. We're going to use a technique here called dry brushing. When you dry brush with paint, you want to load your paintbrush with the paint and then wipe most of it off on a paper towel. You will barely have anything left on the brush. Then you're going to drag your dry brush across the miniature, and the paint will only stick to the highest ridges of the model. This is a great way to simulate highlights. But here, I think it makes the end of the Water Elemental's arm look like whitecaps as the watery waves come crashing down to make contact with your player's face. I used a white paint from Game Colors, but really, any white paint will work. For the last step, we're crossing the streams
Don't cross the streams.
and introducing Art Code from Citadel's technical line. So you can probably use any paint-on glossy sealer and get a similar effect. But hey, support your local hobby shop. Plus, Games Workshop makes great paint, so I'm not ashamed to promote them. Now you're going to want to be careful when you're applying this coat to the Water Elemental. If you put this on too thick, it could cloud the miniature, and again, that's not what we're going for. We want our D&D Water Elemental to look like it was made from crystal clear waters of the Caribbean. When this paint dries, it will give a nice, blown glass, glossy look to your Dungeons & Dragons Water Elemental miniature. And if you want to make the mini glossier, you simply add another coat. Well, that's it. There you have it. If you have any other D&D monsters you'd like to see painted, please list them in the comments. I'll be happy to make a video. If you're into Dungeons & Dragons and other tabletop games, I invite you to visit my little merch/hobby site, TableReadyGaming.com. There I have some tabletop, game-inspired t-shirts and other gaming accessories. Finally, if you're enjoying this content, please like, subscribe, hit that notify button, or don't. You're a free, independent, thinking sack of electrically charged meat, so do what makes you happy.